Vrajajana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stottara Satasi Srimadi Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivajikacharya Stottara Satasi Srimadi Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्त देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी हरे हरि बोल all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga Shri Prabhupada Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaaya Bhutale Srimadi Bhakti Tirtha Swami Nityananda Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddhavani Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Nityananda Narayana Namaskritya Narochavam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatujayam Vijirayat Nashta Prayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. At my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, and Text 23. Vastuno Mridya Katinya Lagu Gurvoshna Shitatam Jigrikshatasva Nirvina Tasyam Roma Mahiruha Tatra Chantar Bahirvatas Tvacha Labda Guru Vrita Vastuno Mridyu Lagu Gurovshna Shitatam Tigrikshatastva Nirvina Tasyam Ruma Mahiruha Tatra Chantar Bahirvatas Tvacha Labda Guno Vrita Vastuno Mridyu Katinya Lagu Gurovshna Shitatam Tigrikshatas Nirvina Tasyam Roma Mahiruha Tatra Chantar Bahivatas Tvacha Labdha Gunovrita Hare Krishna. If you want to chant, you can unmute yourself and chant.
Vastuno Mridukathinya Lakhu Guroshnasi Tatam Jighrikshataswang Nirvinna Tasyam Roma Mahiruha Tatra Chantar Bahirvatas Tocha Labdha Gunovritah.
Jai.
वस्तुनो मृदुकाठिन्य लघुन् गृह्णातुसीतताम् जिघ्रशक्त्यां सन्निर्भिन्ना तस्यां रोममहिरुवाः तत्र चिन्तार्बहिर्हर्वा तस्य तलध्वा गुणोऽमृताः.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Word for word. Vastuna of all matter. Vridu, softness. Katinya, hardness. Lagu, lightness. Guru, heaviness. Oshna, warmness. Shitatam, coldness. Jigrikshata, desiring to perceive. Tvag, the touch sensation. Nirvinna, distributed. Tasyam, in the skin. Roma, hairs on the body. Mahiruha, as well as the trees, the controlling deities. Tatra, there. Cha, also. Anta, within. Bahi, outside. Vata, tvacha, the sense of touch or the skin. Labdha, having been perceived. Guna, objects of sense perception. Reta, generated. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When there was a desire to perceive the physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, hardness, warmth, cold, lightness, and heaviness, the background of sensation, the skin pores, the hairs on the body, and their controlling deities, the trees, were generated. Within and outside the skin is a covering of air through which sense perception became prominent. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, are subjects of sense perception, and thus physical knowledge is the subject matter of the touch sensation. One can measure the temperature of matter by touching with the hand, and one can measure the weight of an object by lifting it with the hand and thus estimate its heaviness or lightness. The skin pores, and the hairs on the body are all interdependent with the touch sensation. The air blowing within and outside the skin is also an object of sense perception. This sense perception is also a source of knowledge, and therefore it is suggested here that physical or physiological knowledge is subordinate to the knowledge of the self, as above mentioned. Knowledge of self can expand to the knowledge of phenomena, but physical knowledge cannot lead to the knowledge of self. There is, however, an intimate relation between the hairs on the body and the vegetation on the body of the earth. The vegetables are nourishment for the skin, both as food and medicine. As stated in the third canto, Twacham Asha Vivinam Vivishur Dishnam Osadi. Om Agyanati Vidandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshu Umbilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Vitapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha. Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitamtam Sajivam. Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Devi Paramami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpadrubhasya kripa sundibhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Kacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshitarini. Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachise Namaha Anandali Ramaya Vigrahaya Himaviri Vichavishandaraya Tasmi Mahaprem Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. The English translation again. When there was a desire to perceive the physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, hardness, warmth, cold, lightness, and heaviness, the background of sensation, the skin pores, the hairs in the body, and their controlling deities, the trees, were generated. Within and outside the skin is a covering of air through which sense perception became prominent. Hare Krishna. So this is in the middle of creation then. Different aspects of the senses and how they came to be. This is connected to Lord Vishnu. Those who may have been following the texts that are previous to this one may know of that particular situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing now. And so there was a desire to perceive physical characteristics of matter, such as softness, hardness, warmth, cold, lightness, and heaviness. So for the Lord Vishnu, when he desires something, it comes to be. Just like that, by desiring. Even in the Holy Bible, it does mention that when it comes to creation, and God said, let there be light, let there be this, just by commanding. In other parts of the Shastra, the Lord just merely has to throw a glance on something, and then how he wants it to come about will come about that way. That is power. We can't do that to save our lives in any kind of way. But the Lord can do it and do it easily. He's a supreme controller. Therefore, things actually happen based on his wishes. And that's why we also say he is the cause of all causes. And everything depends on him. He is, in fact, the one by whom the spiritual world is manifested. That is through Balaram. Balaram is a plenary portion, or expansion, first expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then through Mahavishnu, who we're talking about now, the material world comes to be. Mahavishnu, then Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and then later Kshirodakshaya Vishnu as the expansions take place. So in this case, there was a desire to perceive physical characteristics of matter. Of course, in the material world, this is the physical world, is also subtle, and subtle aspects are there, but we're talking about the physical now. So in science, they've used different words, and sometimes some of the words are used by Srila Prabhupada in the purport too. But to look at the translation, there was desire to perceive physical characteristics of matter, such as softness and hardness. In science, we call it density, how dense a substance is, how much it's its weight in a particular amount of volume. Gives the softness and the hardness, density. Warmth and cold, that's determined by temperature. And lightness and heaviness, that's perceived through, or sense called it mass, the amount of matter, or weight, the gravitational pull of it. Both are used to present that. So when the Lord Vishnu desired this come to be, then the skin pores, and the hairs in the body, and the controlling deities were generated. As the Lord wants, it becomes generated. So in this case, we can see Srimad Bhagavatam is really, really, really spectacular in terms of how things get explained. So Shukadeva Goswami is explaining this, and he says that in this case, it's the skin. Mm. If something is hard or soft, yes, we can press on it to find out when it's hard, whether it's hard or soft. But the part of the body, even now, the part of the body that will come into first contact with with that particular material object is the skin. We have to even feel whether something is soft or hard. First, we have to either touch it, and then touching is done by the skin. Excuse me. So touching is done by the skin, and the nerves on the skin also will tell us when something is warm or cold. Mm. Again, it's the skin. And if something is light or heavy, yeah, we go against our own muscles to see whether it's heavy on us to try to lift it or light on us when we try to lift it. But again, for that to happen, we have to touch it or hold it. Again, that is, holding the thing means that the skin is the first one to contact that particular object. Therefore, the skin then becomes the first thing or the most important thing for all of these characteristics to be perceived. So the skin pores, the hairs on the body, and the controlling deities. Now, this is where Bhagavatam talks a lot more than what science even knows. Science will never talk about the skin pores and the hairs on the body, much less the controlling deities, the trees. They don't know that. They will just say, okay, to perceive something, you will have to be the skin touching it that they can relate to, of course, and outside of that, things like the hairs on the body. Bhagavatam now is telling us that the hairs on the body, the skin pores, they're all, not only that, that there's also a covering of air, which all helps with the sense perception. So there's just more than just the touch from the skin only, but the pores of the skin, the hairs in the body, and also the controlling deities. Now, there is a connection between the controlling deities and the perception of the perception from the skin. When we talk about the Virat Rupa, in the Shastra, it is explained that the hairs on the body of the Virat Rupa or Krishna is, Krishna as Virat Rupa. You mentioned the trees. The trees are the hairs on the body of the gigantic body of the Lord. And so it is not surprising that there's a link here that the controlling deities now for the hairs on the body are the trees. This is where the connection is. So the sensation of weight, sensation of density, and sensation of temperature all come through the touching and the hairs on the body and the controlling deities, as well as the pores. So much that we've learned. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the skin pores and the hairs on the body are all interdependent with the touch sensation. They all help for the touch sensation. And the air blowing within and outside the skin is also an object of sense perception. To be truthful, many people would say, but the air is blowing, it carries what? The sense of smell. The sense of smell. The nose is obviously what gives us the sense of smell, but the air carries the aroma from one side to another. That's what we know. And now we know that there's air, a layer of air on the skin, which also helps in figuring out density, temperature, weight, and so on. Mm. That's why Bhagavatam says it's the answer to all questions. We learn, in other words, we learn like that. Mm. So physical knowledge is subordinate to the knowledge of the self. It is through the spiritual that the material comes to be. Krishna or Vishnu himself is spiritual and he creates material things. So it's through the spiritual that the material comes to be. And therefore, the spiritual, it always takes precedence over the material. And that is what Srila Prabhupada is expressing here. Physical or physiological knowledge is subject to knowledge of the self, which is spiritual knowledge, spiritual knowledge. So, and then he goes even into a little greater detail. Knowledge of the self can expand to the knowledge of phenomena. Knowledge of the self can expand to the knowledge of phenomena. It very much connects with this text here because the Lord is the super self. The Lord is the super soul, the super self, Lord Vishnu. And so through him and what he desired to have happen, these material things came to be. Now we're talking about the sense perception here involving the touching sensation. So the knowledge of a self can now expand to knowledge of phenomena. So we have to know who we are first, and then, as your Papa explained many times, the physical body is just the cage, the material part of it, and we are inside the physical body. The physical body's operation depends on the soul being there. The soul being in the heart area, then activities can go on, including the sense perception that we're talking about here in this one. Without the soul, then there can't be any sense perception or other senses. They all can't operate when the soul is not there. The soul has to be present first for that to happen. So, okay. You can hang on a second. I have to do one thing here. If I could do it. Let's see. Okay, all right. So, knowledge of the self expands to knowledge of phenomena. But we cannot know about the self, the soul, through physical knowledge. And to this day, even the highest areas in science or whatever knowledge the scientists have still cannot explain the soul. It baffles people. They don't know the nature of a soul. We take it for granted. We know the nature of a soul. What is the nature of a soul? Satchidananda. It is not nahanyate hanyamani sarire. The soul cannot be destroyed in any way. We know that. We also know that the soul is full of all knowledge, and the soul, by nature, is very blissful. So all of these are known in the circles that we are in. But in science, they don't know anything about it. We know the measurement of it. 1/10,000, the tip of a hair. You take a tip of a hair and divide it into 100 parts. You divide it into 100 parts. We can't even do it with these eyes that we have because our eyes are kind of limited in how far you can see and how tiny the thing is that it can perceive of. Many people wear glasses for that reason. So you divide it into 100 pieces. Then take one of those 100 pieces of the tip of the hair and divide that into 100 pieces. And one of them is 1/10,000, that tip of the hair. That is the size of the soul. That is not known by science. So they got a long way to go. And of course, they like to use their equipment, their instruments to measure before they can believe and even write something about it and report it in the journals. But how can they measure these things? They can measure sometimes through electronics. There are aspects of things that they can measure really, really, really to small amounts. That's there. But still, there's a very, very large error in it. Because I remember when I was doing research, I had to indirectly get some quantities that were very, very, very small, but it was always done indirectly. Indirectly meaning that if some property of it is known, and then from that property they work back to try to get a particular number that is very small, because we are very limited in what we actually can physically see. So Jim Papa says there's an intimate relation between the hairs on the body and the vegetation on the body of Earth. Mm. And the vegetables are nourishment for the skin, not only the skin, the entire body, and also food and medicine. Mm. And then he states the third canto, Twacham Asya Vimeninam Vivishul Tishnam Osadi. So in the third canto, Papa said that's there. It's actually in the third canto, chapter 6, text 18. Mm. Twacham Asya Vimeninam Vivishul Tishnam Osadi. Amshena Rumavi Kandum Ye Asa Patipadiyate. And the translation for that is still talking about the skin. When there was a separate manifestation of skin, then the controlling deities of sensation are, and their different parts entered into it. And thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. And we're very, very much aware of that. Sometimes there's itching. Immediately, we will, in fact, attend to that place where there's an itch. And different sensations due to touching. Even the different sensations in sex life is also like that due to touching. So, Shiva Prabhupada explains there are two principal items when it comes to touch. I mean, the controlling the skin touching. Touch and itching. And he quotes Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti saying that the controlling deity of touch, now remember we talked about the trees, but Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur also explains that the air passing within the body and the controlling deities on the body is called Osha Dia. So for the skin, the object of perception is touch, and then for the hairs on the body, the object of perception is itching. So now, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur makes a distinction between the touch and itch. He says for the skin, the object of perception is touch. The object itself is touching. And for the hairs on the body, the perception is itching. Now, isn't that very interesting? The hairs on the body is actually the one connects to itching.
Yeah.
When we dealing with an itch, what do? We don't look at the hairs at all. We just go scratch the skin directly. But the itching sensation actually comes from the hairs on the body. So we are really being schooled on what is what. I mean, what we learn in school, I mean, either we don't know at all, or if we're taught anything about touch, about itch and so on, they'll say, oh, it has to do with the nerves, it has to do, no, well, Bible time says it's the hairs on the body. That's the object of perception of itching. So this teaches us a lot, and I know myself, I'm kind of smiling about this whole thing because Sri Papa sometimes says, but what do these people in college know? They don't know much. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions, and that Srimad Bhagavatam is really schooling us as what is what. The hairs on the body of the Lord, those are the gigantic body of the Lord, those are the trees. So we know that, and then right down to the hairs on the body. So now for the first time, so what are the hairs doing on the body anyway? Well, now we know. It is part of the sensation of touch. and even itch, specifically itching, which many people never think of the hairs in the body as part of the generation of itch. Anyway, so um, I'm looking at the time now, and I'm going to switch because of what today is. It's a very special day. Hmm. In Puri, there is going to be Rath Yatra tomorrow.
Wow.
It's going to be Rath Yatra tomorrow. And Rath Yatra protocol is that the Lord starts from Jagannath Puri, the temple, and traverses about 3 kilometers, 1.9 miles, almost 2 miles, from that temple, Jagannath Puri temple, to the Gundicha temple. And the Lord stays there. Now that day is the whole day is just that's their part. That's tomorrow is gonna start. And then they're in there and they are served in the Gundicha temple 7 days. So the day they go and then 7 days there, full days, and then they come back. So if you the date going and date coming back, those are 2 days. For that, those are Rath Yatra when the Lord is outside then. And then the other 7 days. So it's a total of 9 days. Now, before the Lord comes, Daganabad and Subhadra, before they come, first thing is the temple has to be cleaned. The temple, that is the Gundicha temple, has to be cleaned. The Lord Chaitanya, when he was present, he literally asked that he clean the temple. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 12, is about the cleaning of the Gundicha temple. Now, the cleaning of Gundicha temple is probably going on now if it's not finished, because India is ahead of us by like 10, at least 10 hours. Today is Gundicha temple, Gundicha Marjana, the cleaning of the temple. So, with your permission, I'd like to talk a little bit about that part, especially when Lord Chaitanya was here. So Lord Chaitanya's associates, Ramananda Rai and and others we will talk about later. But this, in the text 52 of Madhya Lila chapter 12, Ramananda Rai was talking to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We'll start a little bit further back and then to the cleaning of the temple. Maharaj Prataparuda was a king in that area. He was very, 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 very much devoted to the Supreme Personality of God. Loved the Lord Chaitanya like anything, with all his heart. And he wanted to have darshan of Lord Chaitanya. But Lord Chaitanya was told about it. Ramananda Raya told Lord Chaitanya about it. And also told him that the king of Orissa, Maharaj Prataparuda, is actually a servitor of the Lord. Your devotee. Lord Chaitanya said, as a sannyasi, I cannot associate with worldly people. He may be a devotee of mine, but he is the word king is describing him, his duty. And Lord Chaitanya wants to show by example. He came as a devotee to show us how to be a devotee. So in his ashram, the ashram is in sannyasi, they don't associate with worldly people like that. So Lord Chaitanya gave an analogy. There may be much milk in the big pot, but if it is contaminated by a drop of liquor, it's untouchable. So the milk may be the wonderful properties, the wonderful mindset of Maharaj Prataparuda, but that one drop of liquor, the fact that he's called a king, makes the whole thing impossible for him to be associating with the Lord. I mean, with the king. So, because, so this is how he explained it. Now, but Lord Chaitanya then began to say to Ramananda Roy, all right, the king wants to see me. I've already explained why I can't see him, but one of the things that we can do to at least meet him halfway is bring his son. We'll get his son, have his son meet me. Say his son is not a king, he's a prince. And the Shastra indicates, Chaitanya explaining that the son represents the father. So the son's meeting with the Lord Chaitanya, he's saying it would be just as good as a king's meeting with them. So then Ramananda Raya went to inform the king about this talk with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the king agreed, and the king's son came to see him. Now, interestingly enough, the king's son, of course, is younger, prince. He just entered youth. He was blackish in complexion and had large lotus eyes, as it's been
Oh
described.
God.
Black, you see where we're going with this now. He's blackish in complexion. He has large lotus eyes, and he was dressed in a yellow cloth.
Oh God.
So now, who do you think when they see him, they'll be reminded of? He had jeweled, absolutely, Krishna. He had jeweled ornaments on his body, which Krishna does have also. He was dark in complexion, and he was wearing yellow cloth. So anyone who saw the prince would remember Lord Krishna, as you yourself, Mother Vidyavati, has said already. So then Lord Chaitanya, seeing the boy, immediately remembered Krishna. So then he began to speak to the boy in ecstatic love because he's remembering Krishna. So Krishna first in Lord Chaitanya said, here's a great devotee. First thing, seeing the prince, because he's already thinking about the Supreme Personality, and then he made the statement, upon seeing him, everyone can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda. So he put the son of Maharaj Nanda because he was a son of this boy, was a son of Prataparuda. So he's thinking that way, the young Krishna. So then he said, I've become very much obligated just by seeing this boy. So then he embraced the prince, the boy. And as soon as he embraced the boy, Lord Chaitanya awakened the symptoms of ecstatic love, Krishna prema, which is already there in the body. Everybody has that in their heart. His was immediately awakened, and people began to see the external symptoms. Perspiration, trembling, tears, being stunned, and being very jubilant. The boy began to show all of that. And he began to cry, he began to dance, and chanted, Krishna, Krishna. So the devotees saw what had happened after the Lord embraced this boy, and he said that this boy is very fortunate now because Lord has actually awakened Krishna Prema in this boy. Then Lord Chaitanya told him that you can come see me every day if you want. So that was that meeting, and Ramananda Raya took the boy back to his father, the king, and told what had happened to the king. The king was very, very, very happy to hear about the son's activities. So now, hearing Maharaj Prataparuda, hearing how Lord Chaitanya embraced his son, that made the king get so filled with ecstatic love, like he has been touched by Lord Chaitanya directly. So there is a connection. The son represents the father, but this was even deeper than that. The king was that happy. So of course, from that point on, that prince was one of the most intimate devotees of the Lord. And the Lord said, you can come see me every day. So here he was. It was a very, very, very wonderful situation that he could relate to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the meantime, the father hadn't, but the father took what he could take because the son had seen him, and he was a king, and sannyasi don't associate like that. So anyway, that was the next best thing. So Lord, of course, was spreading the Sankirtan movement, and Advaita Acharya was there, and the Lord was always invited by different associates to the house, their houses for meals. So the Lord passed it like that. And then, as one day after another, of course, that means that the car festival, the Rath Yatra, was approaching. So, just like Gundicha Mahajana date for 2024 is actually today, the whole point is, as we said earlier, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, they leave the Jagannath temple and then they travel about 3 kilometers, which is a little less than 2 miles, Outside, this is where the procession starts. They go to the Kundija temple, stay there for about 7 days, and then they return. So the temple, the Gundicha temple, had to be cleaned. Lord Chaitanya first called for Kashi Mishra, one of the associates, called for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and then the superintendent of the temple, the Gundicha temple. So these three people came, and then he asked them, he literally begged them for permission to wash the temple, the Gundicha temple. So the Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is acting to show us how to be a devotee. So he didn't just simply give order, he begged permission. In the association of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Kashimishra, he begged permission. Again, how to go about things. He's a sannyasi, and he's a Lord, actually. But he didn't want to act like Lord, so he just, acting like a regular devotee asking for permission. So the superintendent of the temple actually knew how highly qualified the Lord was. So he put it this way in response: My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform. This is the level of thought and level of association, level of service that the gopis give Krishna. Whatever Krishna is desiring, that is their duty to perform. There's some sound in the background. If somebody could unmute, that would help. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the king gave a special order. He said, he told Lord Chaitanya that the king, Prataparudra, has given a special order to him to do without delay whatever Lord Chaitanya wanted. So he revealed that to him. So Lord Chaitanya is asking permission, literally begging permission, and then they're telling him that the king has already said that whatever Lord Chaitanya wants, if he says it, you do it. He told the superintendent. So basically, the washing of a temple was, from all of this, it was granted. It was granted. So the king actually wants the superintendent to obey Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desires any way that he puts it. Okay. But then the superintendent says, well, washing the temple really does not befit you, menial service. But if that's what you want to do, we'll accept it as one of your pastimes. So this is a very nice way of thinking on the part of the superintendent of a temple. So then he goes to the details. That's logistics. Wash the temple, you're going to need water pots, you're going to need brooms. Therefore, order me and I'll bring these things to you. So they made more discussions, and then it was decided to have 100 water pots and 100 brooms. So the next day, the sorry, the Lord was accompanied by his personal associates. They went to the temple. They had the water pots and the brooms were delivered. And the Lord, before we started this, he actually smeared his close associates with sandalwood pulp on their bodies. So obviously it smelled really nice. And now they can start doing this. The Lord, he was the very one that distributed the brooms and the water pots by himself personally, everyone. And then he went to Gundicha. Then the temple cleansing started. They started cleaning the temple very nicely. They took up different positions and started cleaning. The Lord actually went to the place, the sitting place where Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, he cleaned it personally. Everything, the asan, it's called a simhasan. He took it, cleaned it underneath, on the sides of it, cleaned it, and then put it back in its original place. I love Chaitanya Charitamrita is so detailed about how things happen. Anyway, it's just a side comment. So the Lord and his companions cleansed, they swept all the temple, the buildings, And they even cleaned the area between the temple and the Kirtan hall. It was a separate Kirtan hall. So hundreds of devotees joined in cleansing the temple. And the Lord was actually cleaning and also giving orders as to how to do it, and do it with great care. So when the Lord washed and cleansed the temple, it was done in great jubilation. People were chanting the name of the Lord, Lord Krishna, the whole time they were cleaning. So the the Lord's body was covered with dust and dirt because of the cleaning, but actually he became transcendently beautiful. Remember in the Battle of Kurukshetra also, the horses that the Krishna was pulling and guiding, or guiding them, they were pulling the chariot, because the hoofs of it just kicked up so much dust. The Lord also, Krishna, was covered with, the dust from the field in Kurukshetra. But those who looked at him with the yellow garments, he looked very, very, very beautiful. And here also, Lord Chaitanya is cleaning the Gundicha temple with devotees, and he's also covered with dust. But they said he looked transcendently beautiful. We can only imagine. So the place where the deity food was kept is called the Boga Mandir. That was also cleaned. Then they cleaned the yard, and then they went to the residential quarters and they cleaned that too, one after another. So Lord Chaitanya collected straw, he collected the dust and the grains of sand, he put it all in one place. He put it in his cloth, and then he threw it outside. And the devotees saw him do that, so they also began to gather their straws and dust, the dirt, in their own cloths, and also threw them outside, just like what the Lord did. Now, interestingly, the devotees collected their dirt in one pile, and Lord Chaitanya collected the dirt that he cleaned in one pile. But Lord Chaitanya's pile was greater than all of the devotees, their dirt in the pile. Well, the Lord is the Lord, right? Who can in fact outdo him? Nobody. So even in cleaning like that, he was able to clean more. So then he cleansed the temple. He cleansed the allotted areas, and then he gave a lot of areas different devotees to clean. So this is all going on, and they're singing, and then they're cleaning, and they're taking dust, straws, grains of sand, throwing them outside. And we described that already. And in the same time, they clean. Now it came to the part where, all right, the dirt's been cleaned. It's not going to go completely. They have to use water. Remember, 100 water pots had already been ordered and brought over. Lord Chaitanya was very happy to see how the progress, had actually occurred so far in the cleaning. So when the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready from the river to where the temple was. They had lined up, and they're the ones that were bringing the water. And they were also singing, and they were bringing the water. And when the Lord called for the water, 100 water pots were completely filled and delivered for the Lord. Then the main temple now has been swept, and grains and dust and all of those have been taken off, straws have been taken off. Then they started washing the temple with the water. They would throw the water on the ceilings, and they would come down the walls, and clean the walls that way, and down to the floor, cleaning all of that. Again, the sitting place, the Simhasan for Daganabadiv and Subhadra, they were also cleaned with the water. First, the Lord himself cleaned that place, and then he went back and put water there also. So this is all going on. They were singing, and now the water thing, it was very interesting because they have to pass the water pots from the lake down. And as they were passing, they wouldn't say, "Oh, give me this or that," or the regular language. Nobody using the regular language to say, give, to pass the water pots. They were just saying, Krishna, 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 Krishna. And they knew already that, Krishna, Krishna means, okay, give me the pot. Krishna, Krishna means do this, that, that. They were just using Krishna's name to communicate. So they definitely were in great ecstasy. And so when this was finished, somebody came and poured water on the hands of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, obviously to clean the hands, and then some on his lotus feet. And what happened is that the water that fell from the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, it was drunk by someone. Someone else begged for the water, and another was given water in charity. So all of this Maha water from the Lord's feet was distributed, and some got an opportunity to drink it. Then the water was let out through an outlet. It flowed, it filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes. He used his own clothes to mop the rooms. And he polished the throne with his own clothes also. So this way, all the rooms were cleansed with the 100 water pots. Now, they got a little bit overexcited, these devotees. Sometimes when they were passing water from the lake to the temple, the Kundita temple, sometimes they bumped into each other. And that way, sometimes they spilled water, sometimes some of the pots broke. But then the superintendent arranged immediately for other pots to be brought in so that the work could just go on. So many people were filling the water pots and bringing them in. And some were washing the rooms, so it was divided like that. Some were filling the water pots in the line, bringing them in. Some were washing the rooms, but everybody was engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. So just to even get a water pot, they chanted the holy name, Krishna, Krishna. Another one that delivered the water pot was chanting Krishna, Krishna, like that. So Krishna, the holy name of the Lord, should be on our tongues the whole time. Either we chanting or whether we hearing, like that. So that we always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Bhagavad Gita, he's given his promise that when we get ready to leave this place, this jail here that we're trying to survive, and we remember Krishna, and it's easy to remember by chanting his name, then we're definitely going back to the spiritual world. So Lord Chaitanya was cleaning very fast, and it seemed like he was cleaning with 100 hands. Then he also went around, he was cleaning and supervising at the same time. So he would go to a devotee and teach him how to work if they're not doing it properly. If they were doing it properly, he praised them. And if they were not, he would immediately chastise them, but not with any anger or anything of that sort. He wasn't bearing any grudge. And sometimes he was a little, in our way of speaking, you might say he was a little sarcastic, because here it's quoted, "You have done well." This is somebody that's not cleaning well. He would just say, "You've done well for what you've done so far. Please teach others to do that." But then they saw through it. When the Lord spoke that way, that person became ashamed. That means you're not doing really what you're supposed to be doing at the level that's required of you. So the devotees began to work with even greater attention. So everywhere, they washed the same area that was cleaned earlier where the food was kept. They went back and put water there also. So the entire place was washed very nicely. Now, somebody came from Bengal, Vaishnava from Bengal. He came, and this is all finished now. Everything's finished. He came and poured water on the Lord's lotus feet, and then took that water and drank it himself. And the Lord did not feel very happy to do that. Now, beginning when we had dirt on him because he was washing, and devotees poured water on him, and then he took that water, the Lord didn't say anything about it. But this is after the whole cleaning had been finished. Then this person came wanting Maha water from the Lord, so he deliberately poured water on him and drank the water. So then outwardly, Lord Chaitanya already knows the man wants mercy from him. But outwardly, because everybody's looking at what is going on, this was not the right thing to do. So then the Lord calls for Swaru Damodar and says, just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava. This person from Bengal has washed my feet within the temple of the personality of Godhead. Not only that, he's drunk the water himself. Mm? And now I don't know what destination I'm going to be going to because of this offense. Mm? In other words, he's putting himself as a devotee, not the Lord. Lord Chaitanya is looking at himself that way, and he's saying that this person should not have done that in the temple. Should not have done that in the temple. Mm. So, indeed, this Vaishnava from Bengal has greatly implicated me. So then Swaru Damodar went to that Vaishnava, caught him by the neck, and then pushed him. Not very hard, just gave him a little push. And the point is, you got to get out of the Gundicha temple. So he was made to stay outside, but then Swaru Damodar went back to the temple and requested Lord Chaitanya to excuse that person. He says, well, it's innocence on his part. So Lord Chaitanya became very satisfied. Now, it seems like this is a simple thing that was happening, but we have to remember one thing. Lord Chaitanya is being watched all of the time. He is being watched all the First of all, he's very attractive, so people will look at him anyway. But then his behavior and his words are being watched, and he's teaching the proper way to behave in every step, every step. And if we could just digress a little bit or go on a tangent a little bit, there was another situation that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chananda and Srivas were together. And this is in Navadvip, but there was an area which is a place like we'll call it, in modern language, we call it a bar. People were in there drinking. But the Lord wanted to go in. Lord Chaitanya wanted to go in to the bar to convince those people who were drinking to take to the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Srivas objected to it immediately. Says, but look at the place you're going. What if other people see you go into a bar and they start talking about Lord Chaitanya went into a bar? What's going to be your reputation then? So that's another situation. Every time, because he's being watched, even his associates are very careful. Lord Chaitanya, actually, to continue the story, he insisted on going in. And Shiva says, if you go in, I'm going to the river and I'm going to drown myself and commit suicide. For I cannot stand the fact that the word would go around that you went into a bar, because people would think that you went into the bar to drink. And so finally, she was one, but Chaitanya decided not to go inside. But the Lord is in the heart of every living entity. So what happened? Those who were drinking, they came out. Some of them were quite drunk. They came out of the bar, and they actually talked to Nimai. They talked to Lord Chaitanya. Well, younger, when he was younger, he was called Nimai. And they were talking about how much they liked him. The drunkards, they were talking about that. So the association and the blessings were given to them anyway, this time outside the bar. So anyway, to come back to this. So the Lord then made everybody sit down. And then there was very, very, very nice distribution of prasad. So the devotees had wonderful prasad. And also after that, I'm looking at the time now. So there was Lord Chaitanya definitely danced and danced very vigorously. There was perspiration, trembling, fear, fading, tears, jubilation. He always danced in great ecstasy. So great, great, great ecstasy. Tears from his eyes washed his body and even those who were near him. So much mercy was given like that. Loud chanting of the Lord's name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The devotees were jumping, dancing with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Swarup Damodar was singing, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing, jumping up and down himself in great jubilation. So the kirtan was very, very uproarious. And then later, Lord Chaitanya then ordered the son of Advaita Acharya, his name is Sri Gopal. He ordered him to dance. How sometimes it happens, the temple, someone comes, one of the personalities dances, and then they pulls the devotee into the center, so you dance, like that. So Lord Chaitanya was doing the same thing too. So this is where we learned it from. Gopal danced so much. She Gopal danced so much he fainted and fell to the floor, literally unconscious. And now the Advaita who was there, became concerned because that's the father. Took him on his lap, and he noticed that Sri Gopal was not breathing. So now he became very much agitated. So it means that the young boy had overdone it, and now it looks like he's lost his body. So Advaita and others changed the tone. They began to change the name of the Shringadev and sprinkle water, and they were just basically going to accept the fact that the young boy had left the body. Mm? But they chanted very, very, very loudly, a string of prayers for him. The boy did not regain consciousness. So now Advaita and the others began to cry. Then Lord Chaitanya looked at the situation, went to the boy, placed his hand on the chest of Sri Gopal and says, Gopal, stand up. And as soon as Gopal, as soon as Lord Chaitanya said that, Sri Gopal immediately came to his senses, and the devotees, we became happy. And guess what? The kirtan continued. And they started jumping up and down, chanting the holy name of Hari. So after a while, then the Lord made everybody take some rest, and then they went to take their baths in the river, in the bank of the lake. They came back, and they offered obeisances to Lord Nishingadev, thanking him for helping. Although we saw what happened, actually, the Lord put his hand on Sri Gopal and woke him up. Anyway, so Lord Chaitanya went to the garden nearby, and now Prasadam, Mahaprasad from the temple, Vaninath Raya, that's the name listed here. He came and brought all kinds of Mahaprasad. And of course, they had a wonderful, wonderful feast. So the Gundicha temple was cleansed. Today in India, the Gundicha temple is being cleansed. And then tomorrow, the Lord will have the Rath Yatra from Jagannath Puri temple to the Gundicha temple. So maybe we'll get a chance to see somebody will video it and put it on YouTube. I hope so. Especially the live one would be nice. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we thought today, the sense perception, we know that now the trees and the hairs on our body are part of the itching sensation, helping with the itching sensation. And now it's also a special day as Gundicha temple is being cleansed as we speak. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, all right. So devotees, if you want to make some comments, there's 4 of us. We definitely can do so. Hare Krishna.
There are no comments, Prabhu. Beautiful, beautiful things to know. I had been to Gundicha temple when Lord was not there. But I am, when you're saying that, I'm remembering all that.
Yeah.
So where Jagannath, Subhadra, they will sit, all those.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice. I mean,
I never knew that Prataparudra's son came and King Prataparudra didn't get the darshan.
He got the darshan later.
Later.
He got the darshan later when he took a broom and he took all of his jewels off.
Even now, I think he comes and brooms.
Yeah. The king, he sweeps the street. Yeah, we didn't get to that part. This is just the Rath Yatra itself. I didn't describe Rath Yatra. I only talked about it.
After he does only Ratha, chariot starts. Otherwise, it won't start. After the king sweeps the place first, and then only the chariot starts.
Starts coming. Okay.
That is every year it is
done like that. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so the peasant kings are also getting some mercy, like that.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice. My humble obeisance to you.
You're fine,
And I really enjoyed listening to
a lot of things we really enjoy.
And I really got the picture I was getting the picture
Yeah.
how they were bringing water pots from the lake, and really, I really liked so much their cleaning process. And so I'm also a little bit inspired if there's a
Are we
cleaning
doing
here
that
at this
also?
temple. I would really get the find the opportunity to go and do something.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah. It's
really
all
nice.
part of service, and we get the mercy that way. It's just our hearts get cleansed, and then we become even happier in Krishna consciousness when we do
But
the
Pratap
offerings.
Brother's son also, he's very, very
Fortunate.
Nice
fortunate.
cleaning my house also more nicely with
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
soul.
Yeah,
And
Patapuda. And there was a very smart thing they did. He was already dark complexion. This is
Yeah.
the prince.
Mhm.
And then they put yellow cloth on him,
Yellow
which is the
cloth.
smartest thing to do because Krishna wears yellow. So if you see him, you remember Krishna right away.
But whether he wantedly did it or just accidentally it happened.
I think it was deliberate.
Deliberate. Pratap must have done that.
I'm speculating, but I think it was deliberate. But you know, it was the best thing to do to put yellow cloth on him.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he's very much blessed. He's
yes.
blessed.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the Mukunda story. I knew about Pratap Rudra. He wore the cloth of Brahmana and did the floor cleaning. But Mukunda story I didn't know. It was really nice. Thank you. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
We keep on, we keep on listening to all this.
Chaitanya Charitamrita is well, it's your hearts are open too. That's why it comes across like that.
Not that, Prabhu, by the way, when you're telling, just well, you are looking at the clock, but we're not. Let's go ahead and do.
Yeah.
One listening.
It's the Lord's pastime. So yeah, you could just talk about it and the time will just keep flying, you know.
Yeah.
Seems like, yeah.
We read Prabhuji, we don't feel that interest. But when we hear from you, we get a nice picture in your face.
It's the mercy of my guru. It's the mercy of my guru and Srila Prabhupada. I always pray before that I said, please use me, you know,
the way you describe Prabhu, I want to listen, like Sumanji said.
It's like a story, right? It comes across like a story. Yeah, yeah. But it's not me. It's the mercy of my guru Prabhupada. So Hare Krishna. All right. Well, we had a wonderful day now here in Gundicha cleansing as it's going on in India now.
That's good.
Yeah, in India now. So wonderful weekend coming up. You're gonna have you're having Abhishek of Jagannath Vada tomorrow, right?
Sunday, next Sunday.
Yeah, yes, tomorrow. Yeah, okay. So
not tomorrow. Next Sunday.
Oh, it's next Sunday. Oh yeah, next Sunday. Okay.
That's what he said.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Vanchakapaturubhishta
Nam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Shri Gora Hari ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.
I didn't know that you are giving class today. Prabhu, I didn't know that you are giving class today. Saturday.
Yeah, well,
Kaivalya Prabhu gives class every Saturday.
Sunday, usually every other Sunday. But now I've been put on Saturday.
Oh, is that?
There was nobody to do Saturday, so Mother Shobha,
Kaivalya Prabhu does it, no?
Something has obviously happened because ask your daughter about it, she'll tell you. But anyway,
because he does every Saturday.
Yeah, well now I'm the one doing every Saturday for this month.
Okay.
For this month, the schedule I got.
Now we can hear good stories.
We'll see. With all due respect to Prabhu, but the schedule.
So most probably by next Saturday will be Radha Yatra for them. Isn't that in Puri? After 7 days. After 7 days.
Yes, yeah. So it's twice. First from Rath Yatra going into the Gundicha temple.
Yeah.
And then coming back, they do it again.
Next Saturday, they will go from Gundicha temple to temple.
Back, yes. Back. See, another 2 miles.
We'll have nice
Yeah, that's so wonderfully.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Jai
Thank
Shri
you. Thank you.
Prabhupada. Jai.